It's fitting that we're talking about education here at the Chamber of Commerce. After all, for America to compete and to win in the 21st century, we know that we will need a highly educated workforce that is second to none. We know that the success of every American will be tied more closely than ever before to the level of education that they achieve. The jobs will go to the people with the knowledge and the skills to do them. It's that simple. In this kind of knowledge economy, giving up on your education and dropping out of school means not only giving up on your future, but it's also giving up on your family's future and giving up on your country's future. And yet, that's what too many of America's children are doing today. Over 1 million students don't finish high school each year. Nearly 1 in 3. Over half are African American and Latino. The graduation gap in some places between white students and classmates of color is 40 or 50%. And in cities like Detroit and Indianapolis and Baltimore, graduation rates hover around 30, 40%, roughly half the national average. Now, it's true that not long ago, you could drop out of high school and reasonably expect to find a blue-collar job that would pay the bills and help support your family. That's just not the case anymore. In recent years, the high school dropout has made on average about $10,000 less per year than a high school graduate. In fact, during this recession, a high school dropout has been more than 3 times as likely to be out of work as someone with at least a college degree. Graduating from high school is an economic imperative. That might be the best reason to get a diploma, but it's not the only reason to get it. As Obmaa mentioned, high school dropouts are more likely to be teen parents, more likely to commit crime, more likely to rely on public assistance, more likely to lead shattered lives. What's more, they cost our economy hundreds of billions of dollars over the course of a lifetime in lower wages and higher public expenses. So this is a problem we cannot afford to accept and we cannot afford to ignore. The stakes are too high for our children, for our economy, and for our country. It's time for all of us to come together, parents, students, principals, and teachers, business leaders and elected officials from across the political spectrum to end America's dropout crisis. And this is a problem that I've actually been fighting for years. Way back when I was a community organizer in Chicago, I saw what happened to a family or to a school or to a community when a student dropped out. So I helped work with local churches in the region and public school officials to get state funding for dropout prevention programs, and brought together African American and Latino leaders to help set up after-school programs. Because when we help keep kids off the street, when we give them a productive way to spend their time, then graduation rates go up. So that's a commitment that I've carried with me to the Oval Office. And today I want to announce steps my administration will take to help end the dropout crisis in the African American community, in the Latino community, and in the larger American community. Because we know that about 12% of America's schools produce 50% of America's dropouts, we're going to focus on helping states and school districts turn around their 5,000 lowest performing schools in the next 5 years. And Arnie will be amplifying and providing details on how we can do this. We'll not only challenge states to identify high schools with graduation rates below 60%, we're going to invest another $900 million in strategies to get those graduation rates up. Strategies like transforming schools from top to bottom by bringing in a new principal and training teachers to use more effective techniques in the classroom. Strategies like closing a school for a time and reopening it under new management, or even shutting it down entirely and sending its students to a better school. And strategies like replacing a school's principal. Now, replacing school staff should only be done as a last resort. The public servants who work in America's schools, whether they're principals or teachers or counselors or coaches, work long and hard on behalf of our children, and they deserve our gratitude. Keep in mind, I've got a sister who's a teacher. My mother spent time teaching on the most important jobs that we have in this country. We've got an obligation as a country to give them the support they need, because when principals and teachers succeed, then our children succeed. So if a school's struggling, we have to work with the principal and the teachers to find a solution. We've got to give them a chance to make meaningful improvements. But if a school continues to fail its students year after year after year, if it doesn't show any sign of improvement, then there's got to be a sense of accountability. And that's what happened in Rhode Island last week at a chronically troubled school when just 7% of 11th graders passed state math tests. 7%. When a school board wasn't able to deliver change by other means, they voted to lay off the faculty and the staff. And as my Education Secretary Arne Duncan says, our kids get only one chance at an education, and we need to get it right. Of course, getting it right requires more than just transforming our lowest performing schools. It requires giving students who are behind in school a chance to catch up and a path to a diploma. It requires focusing on students from middle school through high school who face factors at home, in the neighborhood, or in school that put them at risk of dropping out. And it requires replicating innovative ideas that make class feel engaging and relevant, because most high school dropouts in a recent study said the reason they dropped out was that they weren't interested in class and they weren't motivated to do their work. So that's why we'll build on the efforts of places like communities and schools that make sure kids who are at risk of dropping out have one-on-one support. That's why we'll follow the example of places like the Met Center in Rhode Island that give students that individual attention while also preparing them through real-world, hands-on training, the possibility of succeeding in a career.